How you doing, YouTube? Billy Ray. So, uh, a guy I know on the internet, Jacob, and he's got this fountain of comfort um, charity that works on mental health issues. And it's got me thinking about a lot of things. And this video is about mental health and the foster care system. Oh boy, that's a large topic. So, first off, in the area I live in, there's no real trauma counselors. Not no real trauma, right? You know, fake middle class trauma counselors, they're out there. But people that suffered real trauma, it's hard to find those counselors. It's really hard to get in there. And they're generally about an hour away. And in a working family, that's really hard to do. And a lot of regular counselors won't even try to help kids who have been serially, um, R word, serially sexually assaulted, right? I don't even want to try to help them. So it puts you in a rough situation with trying to get these kids help. And so I'm going to tell you some of the things that I've done to make my home safer, to make my place a sanctuary. And tell you some of the tactics that I've used uh, to try to help these children to the best of my broken ability. And maybe this will be a long video, maybe it'll be helpful, maybe nobody will watch it. But so one of the things, we have some pretty stout rules in my home now. This is after years of being a foster parent and learning from making mistakes. So one of the things is nobody over the age of 5 shares a room unless they are kin and they're the same sex and they're within 2 years apart. And they also don't have a history of sexual abuse. All other children over the age of 5 get their own room, even if there's, you know, even if there is no history of sexual abuse or there is whatever, they get their own room. All right. We also have a rule of the types of clothes that can be worn in the house. Everybody. It applies to me and my wife too. We also have a rule that the only place that you are allowed to change clothes in, and this goes for everybody, the whole household, is the bathroom. So, bedroom doors can be opened at any time. There's little kids floating around in the house. There's toddlers, there's teenagers, adolescents. There's grandmas, there's grandpas, there's DSS. There's sheriff's departments at the house sometimes for various different reasons. There's councils at the house. There's a crowd of different people in and out the house. All people are supposed to be there, not, strange folk, but we're talking about, family members, you know, uh, social workers, police departments, counselors, home aides. There's a bunch of different people in and out the house, professionals in and out the house, minus the family members. And so, um, changing in the bathroom is the best thing to do to avoid all kinds of stuff, to avoid any type of other children act. It just prevents so much bad stuff by making sure there's no nakedness outside of the bathroom. And there's a certain level of modesty and respect that has to be applied to everybody with the way that you dress outside of the bathroom, right? I hope that makes sense. All right, we also have device rules, right? So cell phones, tablets, laptops, right? You're not allowed to be on them in a room at all. You're not allowed to take your cell phone in the room at all, right? Now, me and my wife break that. Cell phones. Everybody's phone is in our room. Uh, so, but we do that for a bunch of different reasons. We've had quite a few kids that had a history with the internet and bad things going on the internet, being taken advantage of. A lot of a lot of a lot of pimps get their underage girls and boys from luring them off the internet, and so we've had kids that have suffered through things like that before. So our rules are apply to everybody equally. All right. And so no cell phones, no tablets, no laptops in your bedroom. And if you are on said devices, you need to be where I can hear and see. No muted. You can't watch anything muted. You're not listening to anything with headphones on. Right? That's I don't listen to anything with headphones on. Which makes a chaotic place where you got three different tablets going off at one time, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in the dining room, and a TV going for the toddlers. Yeah, that makes for a hectic household, right? But it's a safety thing, right? These things are about safety, right? Sometimes, when you've been trained from a young age to act a certain way, groomed, you're not going to see the fault in what you're doing. And you're going to continue to put yourself in situations to where it's going to continue to worsen you and your mental state. Right? So, but we don't do these things in such a way to where it's tyrannical. And we don't do these things in such a way to where it's abusive. We do these things in a loving, reminding manner, right? And at first, it's always trouble. There's always fights and arguments and not understandings and so on. And you learn how to build that relationship and that trust. And see, that's the thing about dealing with somebody who's never been able to trust anybody. It's going to take a long time to build that trust. And you can lose it over something really silly. We're all human. We're going to do something hypocritical, right? And that one hypocritical thing you can do, that you will do, is going to break trust. And you just have to be patient and continue to work with them, right? And some kids didn't suffer sexual assault. Some kids suffered physical abuse, verbal abuse, right? And so some things that we all have to work on, including my little ones, my wee little ones, right? There's certain times that loud play is not okay. There's certain times where quick movements and running around and so on is not okay. And that's for the benefit of children who are suffering through some type of PTSD from whatever might caused it, right? And so it's a conscious thing, right? When you're living with someone who's mentally ill, it's a conscious thing to know what their triggers are and to work diligently to not hit them triggers. But when those triggers are hit, don't swipe that under the rug, right? All my kids are taught that they have to take responsibility for their actions. There's no such thing as he made me mad. There's no such thing as she made me sad. There's no such thing as I can't help it. You are fully responsible for the words that come out of your mouth and the actions that your body does. Fully responsible for it. Take responsibility for it. Understand that you screwed up and start to learn how not to screw up again. All right? It's that simple. Now, that's hard for kids in general. Little on kids that weren't raised up in a structured household. Structure is very hard on kids who's never had it. But here's the thing. You cannot start off slow, because they'll get used to it. And then when you start building up, then they're going to be like, oh, he's changing. She's changing. They lied to me. They tricked me. I can't trust them. Right? So these are things that you have to pay attention to. Right? When you're dealing with the mentally ill person, what you will stand for and what you won't stand for needs to be abundantly clear right out the gate. Rules, regulations, abundantly clear right out the gate. Right? Abundantly clear right out the gate. There's no working into it. It's, you're here now, and this is what you're doing. And yes, it causes fights and it causes arguments. But I've tried it multiple different ways with multiple different children. I've had over 30 kids, 20 odd kids. I'm sorry, I lied. 20 odd kids. I've had over 20 odd kids in the household. Over 30 placements. But anyway, but physical kids, there's been 20 odd kids in the household. And I have learned from experience that what works best is to start with, this is what I expect, and don't change. God don't change, you don't change. Roger? This is what I expect, and stick with that. And yes, the first month is going to be a bitch. The second month, third month, fourth month, easier. Versus the other way around. It starts easy and progressively gets worse. The thing is what you got to think about is these people are in a new environment. They don't know you from Adam. They don't know what they expect. So instead of having them second guess, you tell them what they expect right then. Right? And you work with them every step of the way. And if they tell you they don't like something, if they tell you they don't like a phrase, or they don't like it when you talk with your hands, or they don't like it when, supper's normally at 6:15, but it's fixed at 6:45 today, and they think they're going to go hungry or something. They don't like that. Yeah, when they tell you these things, listen to them, even if it's unreasonable. Right? And that will not work in the real world. Listen to them and try to adjust a little bit. If what they're saying is unreasonable, find a small part of what they are talking about that is reasonable and try to adjust. And when they say unreasonable things that you cannot implement, tell them, I understand your concern, but I just cannot do that. I'm just not capable of doing this thing. Right? Honesty, integrity, and upfrontness goes so far. But you do have to understand something. Every person is different, mentally ill or not. And just because you can clearly understand what you're saying does not mean they do. Just because you understand a concept does not mean they do. Just because your 4-year-old can understand the concept, you think this 12-year-old would understand it, and they don't have a clue what you're talking about. Right? So when you're talking to these children, one of the things that you really need to think about is when you're talking to them, watch what they're saying, watch what they're doing, watch how they're shifting, and then ask them. All right, you say 2, 3, 4 sentences and stop. It's like, all right, do you understand what I just said? Well, tell me back. Why don't you tell me what I just said to make sure that I'm being clear? Because sometimes I don't speak clearly. Sometimes I say weird things and don't realize it. And so why don't you just tell me, what you think that I said? And a lot of times that works, and they'll tell you back, and sometimes they'll tell you back wrong. And then you have to rephrase it or give a further explanation. And sometimes something that should have took 3 minutes to explain takes 20 minutes. And sometimes something that's really complicated goes by like that, and it's easy. Each kid is different. Each person is different. and you have to adjust. You know, I hope what I'm saying helps. I hope. I don't know. But y'all have a good day.